Greetings, meat. Thank you for being our prey today. Before we begin, bite those like and subscribe buttons. It will help feed my hungry brood. And while you are at it, check out a place called Patreon for this meat snack. The access node is at the top of his page and in the description for this video recording. And let me quickly mention his tier 4 patrons: Russ of the Frozen North, New 5 AC, Nick, and Zachary Langmead. They sound delicious. And now, on with the mission debriefing. Meet the maw.
The Deathworlders, a story by Philip R. Johnson, a.k.a. Hambone, Hambone HFY, and Hambone 3110. Chapter 22, Warhorse, Part 6, Operation Nova Hound, Part 3. Date point: 10 years earlier, 12 days after Vancouver, Yewa City, Wikoyun Province, Gao. So why are you bringing this to me, and what is it? Kinnero's ears swiveled uncertainly. Security footage from the Kortai facility those females escaped from, he said. Regari's own ears signaled his skepticism. I'm not involved in that investigation anymore, remember? He pointed out. Father Taru saw to that. This is relevant. We may need you to, influence the Mother Supreme. Regari's ears flattened. This footage had better give me a compelling reason to do so, he said. You've heard that the leader of these escapees, Ima, is petitioning to have the alien recognized as a sister. Regari Duck nodded his head. Yes? This is footage of that alien in combat. They watched it. The alien was very definitely alien. Long of limb, compact of body, and remarkably poised. But it wasn't until she almost ripped one of the locale jailers in half that the source of that poise became apparent. So strong, he muttered, watching as the alien darted across the room and practically flattened the second locale. We're still working on theories as to how biology like that is possible, Kinnaro told him. Regari watched the footage cut to the alien female cutting a swath through the assorted grab bag of the galaxy's mercenaries. What's the best one? I'd bet 5 years of celibacy that the Dominion's assertions that death worlds can't support intelligent life is wrong, Kinnaro replied. Plausible, Regari conceded. And terrifying, Kinnaro continued. If I'm right, then that thing is a bomb waiting to explode. Is she? Look here. She's fighting differently now that she's figured out the strength disparity. Regari slowed down the footage to point out the subtle changes in the alien's fighting style. Wounding rather than killing. Showing restraint despite not having a good reason to. I'm sure compassion will be a great comfort when the death world plagues it undoubtedly carries get loose on Gao and kill millions of our people, Kinnaro sniped. Billions, perhaps. Have any of the females showed signs of infection? No, none. Then you know what I see, brother. I see a poor pre-contact life form who knows how far from home and probably feeling very confused right now. Regari looked his brother in the eye. And I intend to say as much to the Mother Supreme. You defy our clan fathers a second time. What will they do? crown me Emperor of Gao and call it a punishment, Regarii scoffed. Hirono growled. There was a flash of teeth before he restrained himself. In older and less civilized times, that would have inevitably led to a snapping, claw-bearing fight. Your own brothers and fathers, he began. Are wrong, brother, Regarii interrupted, ejecting the little crystalline data wafer that Hirono had brought him, and pocketing it. I'm loyal to the clan, but that doesn't mean I have to agree with the fathers automatically. You do have to obey their orders, though. Regari's ears pricked. You're ordering me to influence her, he asked. Well, no, not ordering as such, Hirono backpedaled, and with good reason. The whole clan's mating fitness would suffer if the females felt that Guillemai was being bullied by the Whitecrests. Then I shall use my best discretion and judgment, Regarii asserted, just as the fathers trained me to do. Date point, 10 years AV. Planet Garden, Capital System, Dominion Space. You fought back, Warhorse observed. You're damn right I did, Regarii said, spitting the English word. He couldn't see Warhorse's mouth anymore. The human had replaced his breathing mask and was reclining against a rock, but he saw the way the skin around his eyes and face stretched and wrinkled. There was a smile under that mask. Dude, you're fucking scrappy. I like it. Regarii didn't get the chance to respond, as the radio chose that moment to flare.
Operation Nova Hound, stainless. Our evac's arranged. See your tablets for RP Alpha. You have 5 hours to get there. Individual orders follow.
There was a pause.
Warhorse, stainless. Your route to RP Alpha takes you near Thor's projected LZ, and I can't raise him. Determine his status.
Warhorse nodded, though of course his commander couldn't see it.
Stainless Warhorse, he replied. Orders received and understood. Out.
The second the link was cut, he swore loudly.
Mikado and Dios.
Regarii scrambled to his feet as Warhorse lurched upright. Is that...
I fucking pray his radio's just out, Warhorse replied.
He scowled at the intel tablet, looked around to get his bearings, then grabbed the ruck. He diligently repacked it after they were done eating, and Regarii winced at the sheer weight of it as the human shrugged it on before stooping and offering him 2 linked hands for a step. Climb on. Regarii didn't argue. Wherever RP Alpha was, it was nowhere nearby, and he would just need to rely on Warhorse's strength and endurance if he was ever to get out from under a thundercloud of hunters. Warhorse handed him the binoculars and intel tablet as soon as he was settled. Keep me on course, he said. HMS Violent, Capital System. Commodore William Carruthers. You're certain they're after you, Stainless? There was a delay in the response. With the strike team having made an exo-atmospheric exit from the station and abandoned the rescue operation, the fleet and spaceplanes had scattered to extreme distance and gone dark. In practical terms, with each one being most likely alone inside a radius of several light seconds, they were impossible to find. Violent was nearly 6 light seconds from the planet below, and that meant plenty of time to wait for the photons of the conversation to wing their way back and forth.
Completely, sir.
Powell's voice was low resolution and distorted by distance and the audio compression, but perfectly intelligible.
The weapons they fired at me looked like a rip-off of that Isbrzy whatever stun gun, but they were aiming the lethal stuff at the lads. They got me pegged for a commander, and they want to know what I know.
We're prioritizing your extraction, Carruthers decided. The Yanks are at DEFCON 2 right now. With the armor the hunters seem to be using right now, it's the only way to secure orbital supremacy long enough to extract you. Stainless, your men are secondary to the objective of preventing your knowledge from falling into enemy hands. We cannot afford to give them any more inspiration. He counted out 12 seconds under his breath.
Understood completely, Commodore. I also recommend that we ready an RFG strike to my suit beacon should my vitals show I've been incapacitated.
Carruthers turned to Violent's captain and raised a finger with a nod, indicating that it should be made so. We'll go at 1400 hours as per your recommendation, he said. Good hunting. Planet Garden, Capital System, Dominion Space. Regarii. There, I see. Regarii worked the focusing controls as best he could, one pod. It's hard to tell. A dark patch that shouldn't be there. That way. Warhorse glanced up and corrected his course, puffing like some ancient steam contraption from Gao's early industrial era. Regarii lost sight of the anomaly as the terrain dipped, and when Warhorse pistoned up the rise on the far side of that dip, Regarii nearly fell off him because the humans stopped dead. Oh no. The humans were so expressive in their grief. He'd seen it with Shu, and now Warhorse was projecting his sorrow even through a bulky suit of fully enclosed armor. He sagged for a moment and then pushed forward until they reached the edge of what was, unmistakably, a fresh crater. The suit at the bottom of it was effectively intact, though it had been badly ablated by reentry. Blackened, melted, and burned away. From the contortion of the limbs and the crushed flatness of the torso, its operator had not survived. Warhorse sat down with a thump. Regarii climbed off him, sketched a gesture of respect with his remaining paw, and let Warhorse grieve. The same shields that had allowed Warhorse and him to reach the ground safely had plainly failed in Thor's case, or else never deployed at all. In either scenario, the suit had demonstrated that it was a hideously tough piece of equipment, having reached the ground and still recognizably being the same object. To fall from space and leave an impact crater and still be identifiable? Not a pleasant way to die, but as a technical accomplishment, it was daunting. He hadn't really considered what Deathworlder engineering might accomplish. Before, Shu's intelligence and insightfulness had been obvious, as had her culinary artistry, but her sheer physicality and intensity had frequently overwhelmed those qualities, with the result that Regarii had simply never turned his thoughts to humans as engineers, builders, and inventors. He was still ruminating on the fallen suit when Warhorse moved, slowly raising his hand to the communicator on his shoulder.
"Stainless," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Warhorse. Thor is KIA. EAR field failure." "Warhorse Stainless. Copy that. Did the field jump array he was carrying survive?" That's a negative, Stainless." "Warhorse Stainless. Grab a memento, mate. Destroy the suit and continue to RP Alpha. Out."
Warhorse stood up again, then stepped down into his fallen comrade's crater and ripped something from the front of the ruined suit, a patch of some kind. He did something Regarii couldn't quite see and then stepped back as, again, the suit began to smoke, then burst into seething, angry flames. There wasn't much left to burn. The destruction was already pretty well total. Warhorse sagged, then spoke to the charred thing in the crater. "Vaya con Dios, brother." He knelt and gestured Regarii up onto his back again, checked the intel tablet, turned north, and marched. Warhorse was clearly in no mood for talking for most of the remaining distance to RP Alpha, wherever it was, and Regarii let him work in silence. Instead, he pulled out his pistol, and with some difficulty thanks to his missing paw and the human's steady gait, made a few tricky adjustments that he'd first learned when he was barely out of cubhood. He was becoming seriously impressed with the medical technology the humans had brought with them. His missing paw should have been a source of debilitating agony. Instead, it was a ghost, a phantom presence on his wrist that felt, when he wasn't paying attention, like the real thing. If nothing else, the anesthetic in the dressing was highly effective. It was probably designed for Deathworlders, he decided. That meant he was trusting the human not to have badly miscalculated and given him an overdose, but he was beginning to seriously trust Warhorse. His thoughts were broken by communicator.
"Warhorse Longlegs. I have eyes on you, pal, and you're being stalked."
Regarii's fur started crawling instantly, and he put a hand to his holster. "Stalked?" he asked.
"Don't look around," Warhorse told him. "Longlegs, Warhorse, Hunter?" "Reckon so. One of the big fuckers that got Sterling. See that stream up to your left? Take a water break. Lure it out in the open when it catches up with you."
Warhorse looked left, then Regarii did the same. The surface of the stream in question was an invitation all by itself, and he realized he was growing really quite thirsty.
"Will do," he said. "Warhorse out."
They paused. Regarii couldn't sense anything amiss, but apparently Warhorse could, because he stood still listening for a few seconds, then grunted and stooped by the water, unclasping his mask. Regarii watched, where he would have had to lie on his belly to lap up the water, undignified and uncivilized to a modern Gowan. Warhorse just carefully put his gun slightly aside, ready to have it up and firing in an instant's notice, and dipped both hands into the stream to form a shallow bowl, which he raised to his mouth. "Not filtering it this time?" Regarii asked.
"Appearances,"
Warhorse muttered, not actually drinking the water. He tilted his head slightly.
"Hear them?"
"Hear what?" Regarii was interrupted by a pulse round, which glanced off Warhorse's upper arm. From the size and sound of it, it had been a heavy pulse, the kind with enough juice to fling humans about and break limbs. Sure enough, even the winging blow spun the bulky Deathworlder around his axis and dropped him sprawling in the local grass equivalent. Regarii's dive for cover saved his life. The bolt aimed at him would have reduced him to a nasty pink paste. Warhorse was up, though. Aside from knocking him around a bit, the pulse weapon apparently hadn't done anything at all except make him angry. He returned fire, gun producing a heavy slamming sound that Regarii could feel with each shot as a hammer blow in his chest. One of the hunters was torn to bits, dismembered by the firepower that ripped through it. The other, as Longlegs had predicted, was one of the big, grotesque, wet red naked muscular ones, and it was layered in heavy shield emitters that spat and flashed as Warhorse's bullets hit home but failed to penetrate. It lunged forward, and Warhorse took a smart step away as deadly fusion-edged talons raked out, neatly shearing off the end of the gun. The hunter was fast, nearly as much so as a human. 2 pairs of those fusion claws swiped and slashed, and Warhorse survived only by throwing himself backwards and then scuttling away on all fours, staggering to his feet to gain distance. The hunter followed, and that would have been the end of Warhorse and Regarii both, had a lightning bolt of berserk and mountainous Deathworlder not erupted from amongst the shrubs without any warning. The hunter had just enough time to register the existence of this new threat before it hit home, and after that, there was no more hunter.
"Could have sworn you did better than that in training, pal,"
the cavalry declared, once the hunter was in several pieces. Both men extended their gloved hands and bashed them together.
"These ones are going to be trouble," Warhorse replied. "Look out!"
The third hunter, another big one, had a cloaking device and a plasma gun. And that would have been the end of Longlegs and Warhorse both had Regarii not shot it. The humans, in fairness, took the way the beast disintegrated in a horrible slap of wet matter in their stride, and did a thorough check of their surroundings for threats before turning their attention to Regarii, who was licking the burn on his remaining paw and kicking out the grass fire that was threatening to burst up around the glowing puddle that had once been his pulse pistol.
"Fucking hell!"
Longlegs declared, while Warhorse scooped up some water and dumped it on the ruined gun, producing a fog bank and an angry hiss.
"The fuck was that?"
Regarii licked his burnt paw again. "If you know how to rewire a pulse gun the right way," he said, then gestured to the nasty mess of former hunter that was swirling away downstream. "You only get 1 shot, but better 1 shot that counts than 1,000 that don't." The humans exchanged glances.
"I like this one," Warhorse said.
"I can see why," Longlegs agreed.
"We'd better get moving. They'll know where their mates are. Our best bet is to get to the RP." "Right, let me just fix his paw. He needs at least 1 working," Warhorse agreed, then turned to Regarii. He grabbed something on his harness and the bag fell off, clearly designed for quick release. "Legsy, if you need ammo, check the pockets on the left side," he added. Warhorse's thick, armored fingers were strong enough to accidentally crush Regarii's bones to powder, but his trust in the human medic was well placed. Warhorse's grip was merely firm, and he applied the dressing with paradoxical precision and delicacy, while Longlegs reported the contact as stainless and grabbed some of the offered ammunition. The process took only a few seconds before Warhorse stood and hoisted his bag back on. "Okay, hop up. That'll do you for now. Let's go." Regarii didn't argue. Right now, the safest possible place in the universe seemed to be on Warhorse's shoulders. RP Alpha turned out to be a cluster of buildings atop a gentle swell on the ground. The planet Garden was a park world, Class 2, with only the bare minimum of tectonic activity that was necessary for life to arise in the first place.
It had no impressive rocky upthrusts or great slabs of broken crust resting at right angles atop the layers below, only gentle swells and rolls in grassy hills.
Ruins? Warhorse asked.
This planet used to be the embassy world for all species, Regarii explained. Then the station was built, and because it's more convenient to dock with the station than land on a planet...
Right.
The humans paused to sip from their water supplies. The water was strangely colored, like the instant juice had been. There must have been something in it to replenish them, Regarii supposed.
Whose was this, then? Legsy asked.
I don't know, Regarii told him. My people were nearly as new to the galactic stage as yours, after all.
Right, Warhorse repeated. Stainless, Longlegs. I have eyes on RP Alpha. 1 ET and Warhorse with me. Longlegs, Stainless. Better get down here quick. We've spotted ground forces approaching from the north.
Legs raised his binoculars to the north and nodded, before returning to Warhorse.
Double time.
Hold on, Scrappy, Warhorse said, and then set off at an actual run. Regarii turned his own borrowed binos to the north and felt his hackles rise. They've got tanks? He asked. I've never even heard of hunter tanks before.
Tanks we can handle, Legsy assured him. Or rather, the angels can.
Mythical beings?
Nah, mate, fucking spaceships.
Legsy raised his own binoculars and examined the approaching hunter column as they jogged. Regarii imitated him. Why aren't the hunters landing directly on top of us?
Look up.
Regarii did so. Nothing much happened for some seconds. What am I looking... He winced and shielded his eyes as there was a tremendous flash in the sky. It faded almost instantly, but left a purplish-green blob of afterimage behind. 4.
Our angels have got orbital superiority. Legsy's translated voice had a note of satisfaction in it.
Was that...
Tactical nuclear fusion warhead, Warhorse spoke. He was laboring worse than Legsy, but then again he was carrying at least twice as much weight, and it certainly didn't seem to be slowing him down. If not for his heavier breathing and the sheen of moisture beating up on his face, Regarii would have guessed that he was almost finding the run easy. Righteous'll be having fun, eh, Legs?
Huh.
Do fucking right he will. Nobody ever gets to play with the big toys. Fusion weaponry is not a toy, Regarii protested. It is when it knocks those big swarm ships out, Legsy pointed again. It was hard to see in daylight, but there were definitely distant bright trails describing stately lines in the sky. Wreckage falling from orbit. They burst from the brush and shrub and picked up the pace across the open ground around the buildings, pounding up the shallow incline onto paved road surface. Legs and Warhorse, Stainless, I see you. 3rd building on your left. Both men angled for it. Last in? Legsy asked as they came to a halt in a heptagonal ground floor lobby. 8 other men were at work inside, taking the stairs 4 at a time in the low gravity as they shuttled ammunition and equipment higher up into the building.
Nothing like a fucking core tie on your back to make you want to get where you're going ASAP, one of the soldiers said.
He and Warhorse exchanged one of those fist slam greetings.
Yours seems cool.
He's cool as shit, man. Scrappy, this here's baseball.
Scrappy, my name's...
Nuh-uh, man. We're on mission, Baseball interrupted. We're using your war name.
Scrappy seems like the kind of name you'd give a pet, Regarii protested.
How about Dexter, Warhorse suggested. With the arm, and he's a killer, bro.
The reference, and Regarii knew enough about humans to know that it almost certainly was a reference, or in-joke of some kind, went right over his head. But he decided that Dexter sounded much more dignified than Scrappy. It'll do, he agreed. As he suspected, the humans all grinned behind their masks, indicated by a creasing of their eyes.
Dexter it fucking is.
This human could only be Stainless. He gave Regarii an interested look.
You think he's worth somewhat, Warhorse? He's a soldier, sir, Warhorse declared. Right. If you're up for it, mate, I need somebody up in a window keeping an eye on the hunters. We've got a range marker a click out, a little bridge. Let Righteous know when they start crossing it, okay?
Regarii gave him a human nod. Can do, he declared. Stainless handed him a communicator.
Press this bit to talk. It's made for us, so you're gonna have to push pretty hard.
Regarii squeezed it. As predicted, it needed some pressure, but he could do it. Stainless, Dexter, communications test.
Loud and clear, and translated too. Our evac's incoming, but we need air and orbit superiority first. That's what the holdup is. When I call that it's coming, head for the roof. Got that?
Yes, sir.
Good man. Warhorse, Titan's rigging explosives along the North Road. Resupply 'em. Legsy, nick baseball saw and get yourself set up on a ground floor window. Understood?
Regarii snapped a yes, sir that was identical to the two humans. This seemed to meet everyone's approval.
Good. Go.
Firebird. Shuttles away. Escort form up. Riley swung Firebird onto the little ship's wing and, not for the first time, cursed that no Earth Corporation had yet produced a satisfactory craft analogous to the role filled by the cheap, boxy models sold in their millions across the Dominion. It was a flying brick. Spaceworthy and airworthy, but only by dint of excessive reliance on its force fields. No jump drive, no emissions dampening, no nothing. If she'd have her way, they wouldn't be using them. She was going to have to use all the clout she could muster to get that shortage fixed. They'd at least been able to slave the useless little thing's navigation computer to the network that allowed them to jump and warp in the vicinity of their own gravity spikes by shutting the traps down just long enough. Without that, the ground powders would have been fucked. They aligned, blink warped, and the planet capital went in an infinitesimal moment that contained nothing more than the suggestion of incomprehensible speed, from being a nigh invisible turquoise dot in the infinite night to a great curve of blue and white that filled half the world, garlanded by smashed swarm ships. The bastards were fighting back hard. They'd learned a few tricks, but she indulged in a grim smile inside her helmet, and knowing that they'd only lost 2 TS-2s in the battle, while hunter casualties must surely be numbering in the thousands. Righteous Firebird, she called. We're in your box.
Firebird Righteous. Got an incoming heavy column down here. Line up for an RFG drop on my call.
Semenza made an eager ooh noise. I've always wanted to do one of those. Riley lined up while her wingmen swept out to clear the box of any lingering hostiles. So have I, she agreed.
Delight. Fusion weapons deployed via wormhole. Too close to evade. Exo-atmospheric deployment of individual ground units. And the communications ciphers. I salivate to sink my teeth into those.
The Alpha Builder was broadcasting joyous paroxysms like a messy eater spraying prey blood all over its fellows. The Alpha of Alphas radiated good mood. It leaned forward slightly in his throne. Amused rebuke.
Continue to pay attention, and you will be fed further morsels, I am sure. The Deathworlders are not stupid. They will have many secrets in reserve that they have not yet revealed,
it declared. Regret.
A shame that the Alpha of many broods is going to escape capture.
Query.
Are you certain?
Assertion.
It is the most likely outcome. They move with remarkable speed across terrain.
Observation.
The broods are closing in on their refuge.
The Alpha of Alphas gestured resignation. Dismissive.
But we lack the air and orbital control. There will be more Deathworlder surprises. I do not doubt that the capture will fail, but we will learn more from it.
It snarled, baring all of those vicious teeth. Anticipation.
Every such secret gets us one step closer to devouring them.
Dexter. Regarii set down the binos and gripped the communicator's button for all he was worth. Righteous, Dexter, they're crossing the bridge.
Dexter Righteous, copy that. Y'all watch this shit and tell me how much it hurts them.
Regarii's fur rose a bit. The human combat controller's voice had been full of a kind of malicious anticipation, which was equal parts infectious and worrying. Righteous Dexter, what exactly? There was a pause. Righteous was presumably busy. A few seconds later, he got back on the line. Dexter, you, sir, are lucky enough to have a front row seat for the first ever deployment of a rod from God. Enjoy the show. Righteous out. Firebird. RFG dropped, Semenza crowed. Riley hit the retros and shared his glee at watching a tungsten-tipped steel bar the size of a telegraph pole leave them behind and streak down into the atmosphere. Shuttle escort, let's follow it down. Dexter. Regarii first saw it as a star in the western sky. It hung there, low and proud, drifting only a little to the north for nearly a minute, while a flood of hunters crossed the little bridge he had been watching. He had been wondering what was so important about that bridge, but suddenly he saw the genius of it. Those tanks could only cross one at a time. The star was drifting, a little faster now. Then, it wasn't drifting. It was a streak of light, a blaze of pure heat that... He averted his gaze just in time, but even so, the reflected flash off the back wall of the abandoned office he was sitting in was dazzling. When he looked back, he could see the ground settling back in place, and an expanding orb of displaced air and water vapor racing outwards. It knocked dust from the floor of the office and shattered windows when it swept over them with a gut punch of pure volume that ripped an involuntary alarm cry out of him. The bridge was presumably gone, as was the road for hundreds of meters on either side of it, though that was mostly speculation on his point. There was so much dirt and smoke hanging where the hunter column had been that actually seeing the bridge itself was a fantasy. When he surveyed it through the binoculars, all he could see was a beige cloud and a lone hunter, broken and dying in the road. He watched it expire, then put the binoculars down. His paw was shaking. Humans are crazy, he muttered. Alpha of the brood that builds. Epiphany.
Of course, so simple and yet so effective. No need for dangerous and expensive antimatter. No need to mine and enrich fissionable elements. Just drop a steel pole from orbit. Beautiful.
The Alpha of Alphas stroked a claw down one of the cables that connected it to the swarm. Observation.
It seems crude.
Insistent.
Crude it may be, but Alpha of Alpha's greatest one. This is the weapon with which we shall destroy them. With the resources needed to build a single swarm ship, I can assemble enough of those to destroy 100 cities.
Satisfaction.
Then this hunt has served its purpose. I tire of it. We will intercept that shuttle and kill them. Begin dismantling the prey station. Meet to the maw.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I am the Casual Deathworlder, your host, and this has been The Deathworlders, Chapter 22, Part 6/Part 3. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. If you did, please go ahead and smash those like and subscribe buttons down below and maybe consider dropping us a comment. And while you're at it, maybe consider going and checking us out over on Patreon. Lots of cool stuff going on over there. Now then, as always, a huge shout out to my editor, Gregor. Thank you very much, buddy. I could not do this without you. Okay. That was part 3 of 4. One more section to go in this chapter, and it will be a little longer than this, about 20 pages, so about a solid hour and 10 minutes. I hope I will have that one up for you next week, but right now my work life has gone kind of sideways, and I'm having to work a whole lot of extra hours and extra shifts. covering for people that are either gone or no longer with us. So, yeah. I can only hope. In the meantime, so, question, who's got the question? I know. Steaks. How do you take your steak? Do you like it?
We likes them raw and wriggling.
Or do you like we shall dispose of the cremains tomorrow at noon? Or do you like it somewhere in between? Leave your answers in the comments down below. Until next time, be safe, be well. I love you all. Bye-bye.